You're listening to the Femtrepreneur Show. This is episode 8. And in this episode, we're talking about the 5 reasons that people actually buy online courses when there's so much free information available online. Hey guys, it's Mariah.
And I'm Megan Mins, and in our Facebook group, we have gotten one question over and over again, and that's what we want to answer today. The question is, why would someone buy my course when there's so much free information available online, like blogs and YouTubes? So Mariah, what do you think?
So this is a really good question, and what's interesting is that the answer to the question is the question itself. Like, for people to say, why would someone buy my course? There's so much free info online. My answer is because there's so much free info online. So today we're going to talk about the 5 main reasons that people actually buy online courses. Why do people choose to buy online courses when, as we all know, YouTube exists or blogs exist, Google exists, right? There are ways that you can search for information online. Why do people actually choose to invest in a course and spend money on something? That's what we're going to dive into today. And I think a lot of these answers are going to be surprising to you or counterintuitive, or you personally might not feel like, you might say, oh, well, that doesn't apply to me, but don't discount the fact that it applies to your customer, because a lot of these things I learned over time through experience. And I was always like, why would anyone sign up? You know, for example, we're going to talk about why people sign up for courses to actually get a little bit of access to you. And I would always be like, why? What's so special about me? That doesn't make sense. But you have to understand that other people want these things, even if you yourself don't quite understand it yet, or you don't feel like an expert yet.
Yeah. Well, and I just want to, before we dig in further, I want to validate this question a little bit, because even though we know the answer to it, and I think people are going to feel a sense of relief once they hear this episode, I do feel like it's something I have felt before. You know, especially when I do a tech tutorial or I have a course about Squarespace, it's like, well, there's so much information on this online, you know, why would someone pay for it? So I definitely understand why we get this question a lot. I think especially when you haven't done a course before, it feels like people could just search YouTube and learn almost everything. But I think we're going to dig into some really good reasons why that's not something that should stop you from creating a course. And I'm glad it didn't stop me, but I do think I get why people feel that way.
Well, and what you said is true. It's because you, like a lot of times as course creators, we're creative, we're problem solvers, we're people who get things done. And it can be hard to understand, like, for you, Megan, you're like, well, I can figure out anything. I can just like do it. I can try it. I can test it. I can figure it out. I'm the same way. I'm like, oh, I can like get down and dirty and figure out what the deal is, and I can do it myself. But not everyone wants to do that. Not everyone wants to go down that rabbit hole. So that's kind of why we're talking about this today, is that even though if you feel like, well, I wouldn't necessarily pay for a course on this. I would just like go crazy figuring it out.
Learn it yourself.
There are other people who are just like, I just want the easy answer. So that's what we're going to talk about. So the first reason that people buy online courses is that they are actually overwhelmed with all of the free information that's available online. They want someone to provide an organized, step-by-step way to learn something. So the reason that there's so much things available online, on YouTube, on blogs, on Pinterest, wherever you look, that's actually why they choose to buy a course, is because they're overwhelmed. It's too much to sift through. You don't really know what order to do things in. You don't really know who to believe. Sometimes you'll come across conflicting information and you'll feel like, I don't know which path to go down. People want a roadmap. They want a path. They want organized. There's a lot of value in you simply organizing things into an order that someone should follow. Like, that could be all your course does, and it would provide enough value for people to buy it, that it simply puts things into an organized order. Like, that's it.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, that's something, even for myself, I feel like I just went through this. Like, I am going to start doing YouTube videos for my business. I know we want to do that for Femtrepreneur as well. So it was like, I wanted to get started and learn how to do that. And just like you were talking about, there's so much information, free downloads, Pinterest articles, YouTube videos about it. Like, there's just so much information that as soon as I saw a trusted expert, someone I could tell knew what they were talking about, and they were offering a course learning about how to do YouTube videos or video marketing for your business, I was like, I'm sold. Like, I just need someone to tell me. I don't want to waste my time Googling and reading all these things and coming across confusing information. Like, I just want someone to tell me what to do in the best way to do it so that I can just execute it.
So what you just said is a really interesting perspective that a lot of people miss. A lot of people feel like they have to convince people why they should buy their course. But what you have to understand as a course creator is that there are people out there searching desperately for the answer to their questions all day, every day. And when they find you in your course, because you've marketed yourself, they will be like, thank goodness. Oh my gosh, take my money. And that's the thing is you're not sitting there trying to convince people to buy something they don't need. You're offering a solution to people who are out there desperately trying to find the answer. I mean, that's such an interesting thing you're saying that. And I just want to point that out to people that you're not shoving it down anyone's throat. You're actually providing value. You're showing up when they need you and saying, if you're frustrated, you don't have to be. And so I think, like I said, no one wants to have 100 tabs open in their browser going back and forth. I mean, this is the stuff like, I've done that before where I have 10 tabs open and I'm trying to piece together a tutorial for something. Yeah. No one wants to do that. And a lot of people will just say, you know what, I'm willing to save time. I'm willing to save the frustration and just do it this way. So that's reason number one. The second reason that people buy courses is to save time. So the first is overwhelm. The second is time. And so a lot of times people are going to say, well, I need a solution to this fast. I need to do this next week. I actually need to figure this out in a month. For example, we have a student who sells a house decorating course. And I always think like, okay, that's something I'm going to need. Like, I'm going to find out that friends are coming over, friends are visiting next month, and I need my house to look decent before they come over. This is something that I'm struggling with right now. I'm like, okay, we're having guests over. I know I need to get like things styled and set up, but I don't know how to do it. So a lot of times people are buying a course as a way to save time. And what this leads into is that your course should actually be very succinct, concise, and short. There's no benefit to you saying, oh, it's 12 weeks and it's 10 modules. Too long. It's too long. And even in our interview with Addie Ganley, she said that same thing. She had tried to sell this big, comprehensive, all-in-one course, and it didn't do as well as this tiny little course that people could implement in like 2 hours. So think about that. People are buying a course to save time. How can you design your content and design your course to help people save time? Just keep that in the back of your mind.
I love that. I think that's such a good point because I think related to this is think about who is in the market to buy a course. Like you kind of touched on this, Mariah. They're desperately looking. They're also ready to make moves quickly. Like if they're ready to purchase, that means they are actively trying to achieve something and they're ready to take action. So having a 12-week course or a 12-module course, like that can be conflicting almost because it's like, well, I want to get this done sooner. But just in general, like you want to save time for them because they can then act quicker. I think that's the point I'm trying to make is your course is the shortcut. They're not having to spend weeks trying to find the information and then try to execute it because they have it just packaged right there and they can start taking action immediately.
Yeah. People are busy. If you can say, look, I know, you would spend a week trying to figure this out on your own. Let me walk you through it in an hour. Especially for things like software, people always wonder, ConvertKit has a whole knowledge base. Why would anyone buy a course on that? Squarespace has a knowledge base, literally of video tutorials. How is that different from a course? Because someone is going to sit down with you and just walk you through in order without you having to search through the knowledge base, what you're trying to do. So instead of spending a week putting up your Squarespace website, you could spend 2 hours doing it.
That's a good point.
Buy Website in a Box.
Shameless plug.
That wasn't going to turn into something about Website in a Box, but it did. Website in a Box, is it .com or .co? I never remember.
Oh, God. I think it's .co.
I think so, too.
I think if you go to websiteinabox.com, it's like some really old-looking website.
It probably is.
I remember being like, oh, that's weird.
We always use the .co, and it hasn't. A lot of people ask. Side note: a lot of people ask us like, "Oh my god, I can't find the .com. My life is ruined. Like, I can't start a business." And I'm like, just use the .co. Like, it's not a big
usually
deal.
Fine.
Okay, so
Tangent. Back on track. So we talked about number one, because they're overwhelmed. Number two, they want to save time, and number three is what?
Number three is that they want to meet and talk to like-minded people. So. Ooh, yeah. A big reason people buy courses has nothing to do with the content that you offer. It doesn't really have to do with how many videos you have or what resources you offer. It's really about people wanting to connect with other people that they have things in common with, or other people who are trying to do the same thing that they're trying to do. People who are on the same journey. I recently joined a course, and I love that I can just talk to other people who want to do the same type of business that I want to do. They want to explore these same things. And it's kind of great because we're all in the same, not everyone, some people are more advanced than others, but for the most part, it's like everyone's starting in a similar place. People want to be on a journey with other people. So a big reason people buy courses is for the community aspect. This is why I always recommend that you have either a Facebook group that goes along with your course, some kind of community that people can talk in, whether it's Slack or, I used to use Google Plus communities back in the day. But some kind of community where people can hang out and talk becomes really, really valuable. And people will buy a course just explicitly for the community it provides, and providing a safe space to talk about the issues you're going through as you're doing the process for anything. I mean, honestly, like, we struggle, even if it's a business course, you struggle as a business owner. And I love having a place to kind of talk about the hard stuff. No matter what your course is about, being able to say, like, this is what I'm struggling with, or this is what I'm celebrating this week, and people to kind of be able to chime in, it's a huge part of why people buy courses.
Yeah, I think that's so good. I mean, that's always a big incentive for me. Mm-hmm. I feel like if there's ever an option between like self-study or community, it's always like, I want the community. Like, I want to be able to I want to ask questions. I want to get to know people and develop relationships. And especially, collaborating is such a big business, not model, but like a good tactic. And you want to meet potential collaborators. So I totally agree.
The sort of potential of, like you said, like the networking potential, I think is especially a reason people say like, oh, well, I might meet someone, be able to, do something with them, collaborate with them, or work with them on something. And that's like an exponential value that people get from your course. There's so much value in people being a connector. So I know, like, I think Tim Ferriss talks about that. I'm not sure, but I remember someone saying like, you can provide value to people by simply introducing two people who would really benefit from knowing each other. And being a connector is actually a really valuable skill. So for me, facilitating a course and facilitating a community feels like I can connect people who, oh, you should team up with this person. You guys should be affiliate partners. You guys should do a webinar together. I'm trying to notice who has things in common that they would be complementary. So it's a big value that you provide.
Yeah, I like that.
So the fourth reason that people buy online courses, and this might sound counterintuitive to you now, again, if you are struggling to feel like you're the expert in anything and you're not really sure, this is something that just completely confused me. But the fourth reason is that people actually want some level of access to you. They want to buy a course because of you. Because it has to do with you, because they're going to get to talk to you in the community, because they're going to be able to see your comments on things. They just want more of you, more of your brain, more of what you have to say. They like your personality. Guys, there are so many hundreds and hundreds of people teaching the same thing in so many different ways, but people choose your course because of you. And it's so hard to understand this. I don't know, Megan, if you struggle with this, where for so long I was just like, I don't get it. Like, why would anyone care about about me instead of just the content? Like, I was like, oh, it's all about the content. You don't realize how many people are buying it for you.
Yeah, I think that's just, it's funny because I, as a student, like, I've become a loyal student. So if I really like someone, and maybe I bought like a small course of theirs or any kind of course, and I had a great experience, if they produce another course, I'm like, I gotta buy that. Like
Mm-hmm.
I so easily become a loyal student to someone, but it's hard to imagine yourself being that. Like I think it's
Yeah.
just not that it's a confidence issue, but I think it's a different type of confidence. And you have to believe in the value that you have and your voice and that you can be a thought leader in your industry. And I think that's something we talked about as a femtrepreneur team is like, we are thought leaders and we've never embraced that before. And that's
Mm-hmm.
not to be cocky. Like, I don't think like saying that is like, oh, like I'm so much better than everyone else because I have thought leadership. Like, no, not at all. It's the opposite. But I think it's empowering. Like when you
Yeah.
allow yourself to say, I do have something to say. I do have new things to contribute to my space. It's empowering, and then that confidence kind of comes with it. And then when people do start, being loyal students or like wanting to do things just to have access to you, it's, I don't know, I feel like it's almost a cycle. Like it can
Mm-hmm.
happen in different orders, but once you embrace it and like feel good about it, then I think it's a really nice experience. I feel like I
Yeah.
got on a tangent there, sorry, but I just think it's a different perspective to feel like you are that person and you're not just
Yeah.
the loyal student to someone else.
People will say, like, I bought your course because I really resonated with your story, or I really liked
Yeah.
your perspective, or I had heard 10 other people talk about this topic, but no one had ever explained it the way you explained it, or things like that, that you're like, okay, I do have something unique to say here, even if I didn't necessarily think that my personal experience with things or my personal backstory has anything to do with like the content that I teach in a course, which you're thinking is like, oh, it's so, it's so separate. It's something I'm trying to be the teacher. I'm trying to just be academic or just teach this, but it's not like that at all. And I just like,
Yeah.
I always like to say, like, I give you permission to get personal. Like, in your course, don't just talk about the strategies, talk about how you learned this in your own personal experience. Because I do think people will buy from you because they want some level of access to you. So people know if they buy our courses, like they're going to get my feedback on their stuff. Which again, I don't want this to freak you out as like, oh, well, I don't want to do one-on-one coaching. That's why I'm creating a course, is to get out of that model. It's not like that at all. It's more, it's not like that level of access to you, and you get to decide what it looks like. Like if it's just that you comment on people's stuff in your Facebook group, or you do a live weekly Q&A call for your students, things like that. You get to decide what it looks like. But that's a huge reason that people buy courses.
Yeah. And I feel like even removing like the live element of like actually commenting or doing live things, I think even just a recorded video of you is a different level of access than people may have had to you before. And I think to elaborate on what you were saying, Mariah, about, your story specifically resonating with people, I do think whatever the industry is, obviously we talk about, marketing and course creation, and there's a ton of courses in our industry.
Yeah.
When people come across you, Mariah, and they hear your story, I think it really can resonate with people who are tired of what they feel like they always hear. In the marketing space, a common myth or misconception is that you have to teach about marketing or making money to actually make money. Right. And I think that people get like really burned out by that, and the idea that that wasn't your background and like how different your story is, I think resonates with people maybe in specific niches. Maybe they aren't in the marketing or making money online niche. And so hearing someone talk about it from their perspective, they feel like it connects with them and it makes them want to learn from you because their background matches yours, or they resonate with part of it. So I think whatever your industry is and whatever your background is, I totally agree that the moment you start sharing that is when you're actually going to allow yourself to make more genuine relationships and connections and make a difference, and not just like be another voice in the industry.
It's interesting because it's if there are, there's always going to be multiple courses about the same thing. And as a customer, if I see that there are two courses about basically the same thing, the content outline looks similar, like it's teaching the same result or something, but the person tells their background story, and I can relate much more to that person than I can the other person. Like, for example, if say they're, say you're a single mom and you have two options to buy two different courses you're looking at, and one person is like, oh, I don't have any kids, and, this is all I do, and, that's just not, that's not their life. And then another person is like, I'm a single mom, I was still able to lose 10 pounds doing this, like, blah, 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 like, whatever the course is about or the program is about, you're going to say, oh, that person was like me and still did it. I'm just going to buy it from that person because I know that they could overcome what I'm dealing with right now.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
So it's like, that little tiny thing of sharing your story is going to attract people who are like, oh, yeah, I totally get that. Like, oh, I grew up in a foreign country and I always thought that would hold me back, but it doesn't. Other people who maybe live in other countries are going to be like, oh, that's my fear too. Like, I can relate to that. So you have to share your story outside of just like the technical, not the technical content that you teach, but just the content that you teach.
Yeah, I love that. Such a good point.
So that was number 4. Number 5 is that they know their own personality, and they know that for them, they need to make an investment in order to follow through with anything. And not everyone is like this, but a lot of people are. They know that even if they say that they want to do something, no matter how badly they want to do it, if they don't put some skin in the game and they don't make some kind of an investment, they just won't be motivated to follow through. Like, I can tell you so many examples of this being true for me. And I'm sure you can too. Like, it's just like something that we do as people is like, I know for me, like, okay, tell me if you do this. In January, you buy like new sports bras, new workout gear. Like, you're just like, okay, this is the year. And you're like, I bought like this January was like all new yoga equipment. Like, I bought a treadmill. I like spent so much money on all this stuff. But that steep investment has paid back time and time again, because I just knew after a year of saying I was going to get in shape that it wasn't going to happen unless I made an investment that scared me. Honestly, that was it. It had to be a scary investment in order for me to say, I really need to make use of this.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I know I can follow through with something without the investment, but I know it makes a difference when the investment is there. Like, the investment is the difference between like, oh, I'm thinking about doing this, or like, oh, I'm working on this. As soon as the investment is made, it's like, okay, like I'm really doing it. It needs to be done by a certain time. Like, I start wanting to validate the expense, And so I bought like, what was it? I don't have any professional lighting. Never had that. So I bought like a little, $75. We're not talking a huge investment here, but I bought like a $75 lighting kit on Amazon, knowing that I want to do some YouTube videos. And it was like, even just that purchase, it was like, okay, I bought the lighting kit that has no other purpose than these YouTube videos. Like, now I have to do it. It's almost like some extra accountability as well to like really follow through. So I feel like that's what, for me, it's not that it has to be there. I'm not that person, though I know people are. For me, it's just like the moment that it becomes serious, which is important, obviously. But
well, that's the thing. It's like, okay, like I'm tired of just talking about this. And like, especially I think a lot of people like think they want to like write a book or something. Oh, I want to write a novel. I have this idea for a novel. I'm writing a book. People always say like, I have a couple of notes in a document, whatever. But until they kind of, maybe that's the kind of thing where it's like, if I spend $200 on this course about writing your first fiction novel, like I'm going to be able to actually, and that's a course one of our students actually has and has been really successful with, because I think that's that particular example is people are like, they always talk about it. They want to write their book, but they haven't followed through. And so that is like, people are out there actively looking for something to invest in to get them off the fence, to get them to take action. None of us are just like naturally super disciplined and born motivated to do these things. But I think that it just takes that little kick in the pants. Some people are literally buying your course for the kick in the pants.
Yeah, I love that. And I don't feel like that's something people really talk about. So I'm glad that you brought that up to help validate like why people buy your course, even though there's free information. I think these 5 reasons like really answer that and should hopefully provide comfort to anyone who's maybe been feeling like they've been struggling with that doubt themselves. And I want to mention before I forget that we also have a freebie for anyone who is interested in creating their own course. It's called the Course Creator Starter Kit. And you should definitely download it. It's full of different tools, worksheets, planners, kind of like the basic foundation you need to get started on your own course. So if you're interested in that, you can just go to thefemshow.com/8 and check it out.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. And if you guys like this episode, please subscribe to the Femtrepreneur Show on iTunes and leave a rating and a review. I know it seems small, but reviews make a really big difference to us, and they help us get more amazing guests for you, and they help us make sure that we can come back every single week and give this free content to you guys. So don't forget to go to thefemshow.com. If you have a question that you want us to answer, go to thefemshow.com and submit your question, because that is how we actually get these questions that then become these episodes. So we'll definitely give you a shout out too. So go to thefemshow.com and submit a question for us.
Yeah, and if you want to discuss this episode with us and our whole community of amazing, ambitious entrepreneurs, make sure you join our free Facebook group at thefemshow.com/community.